If you've ever felt a sudden emotional distance you couldn't explain, a quiet shift that made your chest tighten, this is for you. Because the moment a woman realizes she's losing you, something inside her changes, and she works very hard to hide it. Before we go any deeper, if you value honest psychology, real emotional insight, and the kind of truths that save men years of confusion, subscribe to this channel and like this video. It helps this message reach the men who need it most. I'm speaking to you not as an enemy, but as a psychologist who understands the internal conflict women experience when control begins to slip. When she knows she's lost you, she doesn't usually beg, she doesn't explode, she doesn't confess. Instead, she becomes strategic, and that strategy is quiet. The first subtle behavior is emotional minimalism. She starts offering less of herself, not because she doesn't care, but because caring suddenly feels dangerous. When a woman senses that your emotional availability is no longer guaranteed, her nervous system goes into protection mode. She trims conversations, she shortens responses, she removes emotional color. To you, it feels like indifference. To her, it feels like survival. The second behavior is forced composure. She appears calm in moments where emotion would normally leak through. This isn't maturity, it's restraint. She is actively suppressing reactions because reacting would reveal how much she still feels. Watch closely. The calm is stiff, practiced, slightly delayed. That's emotional self-control under strain. Third, she stops asking certain questions. Not because she doesn't want to know, but because she's afraid of the answers. When a woman believes she's already losing you, curiosity becomes painful. So she avoids topics about the future, your feelings, or where things are heading. Silence feels safer than confirmation. Fourth, she mirrors your detachment. If you pull back, she doesn't chase, she matches. This isn't confidence, it's pride protecting a bruised attachment. Women are deeply relational, but when they sense rejection, many would rather appear unaffected than exposed. Understand this. When she knows she's lost you, she is grieving quietly while pretending she's fine. And the danger for you is misreading this as emotional strength or lack of interest. It's neither. It's controlled loss. What you're seeing isn't the absence of feeling, it's the containment of it. And men who don't understand this mistake silence for closure, when in reality, it's the loudest signal she can't afford to send. Another behavior appears once she's accepted internally that you're slipping away. She becomes unusually agreeable. Not warm, not affectionate. Agreeable. She stops challenging you, stops correcting you, stops expressing disagreement the way she once did. To many men, this feels like peace, like the relationship has finally become easy. But psychologically, this is surrender disguised as harmony. When a woman still feels secure, she invests. Investment creates friction, opinions, emotions, standards. When she feels she's losing you, she pulls that investment back. She thinks, why fight for ground I may no longer stand on? So she lets things slide. She lets comments pass. She lets behaviors go unaddressed. Not because she approves, but because confrontation now feels like begging. Another subtle shift is how she gives you space. Too much space. Healthy distance feels mutual. This distance feels intentional. She stops initiating contact, not to punish you, but to prepare herself. This is emotional rehearsal. She is practicing life without you while you're still there. It's her way of softening the eventual impact. You'll also notice a strange politeness. She thanks you more. She apologizes more. She becomes careful with her words. This is not submission, it's emotional detachment wearing good manners. When attachment fades, people often become kinder on the surface because they're no longer fighting for emotional closeness underneath. Then there's the laughter that arrives at the wrong time. She laughs during serious moments, smiles when things should be addressed. Humor becomes a shield. It allows her to redirect the conversation away from pain without appearing fragile. To you, it feels confusing. To her, it's relief. Another behavior is selective vulnerability. She still opens up, but only about safe topics, work stress, family stories, past events. She avoids anything that exposes how much you still matter. Real vulnerability would confirm the loss. So she offers controlled openness instead. And here's one men often miss. She stops imagining aloud. No more "we could," no more "one day." The future becomes abstract or singular. This isn't because she doesn't dream, it's because she's already separating timelines in her mind. When a woman knows she's lost you, she doesn't collapse, she compresses. She folds her emotions neatly and puts them somewhere you can't see. The tragedy is that men often interpret this as emotional maturity or acceptance, when it's actually unresolved attachment being quietly packed away. She's not healed, she's bracing, and the calmer she seems, the more careful you should be about assuming she's okay. When she knows she's lost you, her attention shifts in ways that feel subtle but unsettling. She becomes observant instead of expressive. She watches more than she speaks. This is not curiosity, it's assessment. She's studying your tone, your timing, your energy, not to connect, but to confirm what she already senses. That confirmation process is quiet, internal, and emotionally taxing. One behavior that surfaces here is delayed reactions. You say something meaningful, and she responds later, sometimes hours later, sometimes the next day. Not because she's busy, but because she's regulating. Immediate responses would reveal how much your words still affect her. Delay gives her control. You may also notice a shift in eye contact. It becomes shorter, less lingering. Eye contact is intimacy. When intimacy feels unsafe, it gets rationed. She looks away sooner. She focuses on tasks. She fills silences with movement. This is a nervous system trying to stay composed while attachment is threatened. Another sign is that she stops correcting your perception of her. If you misunderstand her mood or intentions, she lets it stand. Earlier, she would have clarified, explained, defended. Now she thinks, if he doesn't see me, maybe he never really did. That thought hurts too much to argue against, so she withdraws instead. She also becomes less emotionally reactive to your highs and lows. Your excitement doesn't spark hers. Your stress doesn't pull her closer. This isn't coldness. It's emotional disengagement as self-protection. When someone feels they're losing a bond, they reduce emotional investment to limit pain. Then there's the change in how she shares good news. She still tells you, but without anticipation. The joy is flatter, quieter. Celebration requires shared future. When the future feels uncertain, even happiness gets muted. You might also sense a new self-focus. She invests more time in herself, appearance, routines, personal goals. This isn't revenge or replacement, it's recentering. When a woman feels emotionally displaced, she instinctively turns inward to rebuild stability. And here's the most misunderstood behavior. She becomes emotionally consistent. No highs, no lows, just steady neutrality. Men often think this means she's finally calm or mature. In reality, emotional flattening is a classic sign of detachment forming. It's not peace, it's preparation. When she knows she's lost you, she doesn't dramatize the loss. She internalizes it. She reorganizes her emotional world quietly, efficiently, and with very little outward signal. That's why men are often shocked when she finally leaves or fully lets go. The truth is, by the time her behavior becomes obvious, the emotional separation has already been underway for a long time. What you're witnessing now is not the beginning of loss. It's the final adjustment to it. At this stage, something deeper happens inside her that most men never see. She begins to rewrite the story in her own mind. Not out loud, not dramatically, quietly. When a woman knows she's lost you, her brain looks for emotional coherence. It needs the pain to make sense, so she starts reframing memories, not to villainize you, but to detach from hope. You'll notice she brings up old moments differently. Not with warmth, not with bitterness, but with neutrality. Stories that once carried emotion now sound factual, almost distant. This isn't nostalgia fading, it's emotional editing. She's removing the charge from shared history so it hurts less to carry. Another subtle behavior is reduced reassurance seeking. Earlier, she might have asked where she stood, how you felt, what you wanted. Now, she stops. Not because she's secure, but because she no longer trusts reassurance to be real. When attachment feels unstable, reassurance becomes unreliable currency, so she stops asking and starts assuming. Her body language shifts too. She angles herself away slightly. She creates physical micro-distance, not obvious enough to accuse, but enough to feel. Physical closeness without emotional safety feels exposing, so she protects herself with space. You may also notice she stops trying to be seen by you. She doesn't seek your approval the way she once did, doesn't wait for your reaction, doesn't adjust herself to fit your attention. This isn't confidence blooming. It's acceptance setting in, the realization that your validation may no longer come, and she must function without it. Then there's the calm honesty. She answers questions directly without embellishment, no emotional cushioning, no softening. Men often mistake this for maturity or respect. Psychologically, it's distance. Emotional cushioning exists when connection still matters deeply. When that bond loosens, communication becomes efficient, not intimate. She also becomes less affected by uncertainty. Plans change. She adapts easily. Delays happen. She shrugs. Emotional investment makes uncertainty stressful. Detachment makes it manageable. The less she expects from the bond, the less she needs control over outcomes. And here's the quietest sign of all. She stops trying to understand you. Understanding requires emotional effort. When she feels the loss is inevitable, she conserves that energy. She lets your behavior exist without analysis, without interpretation, without pursuit. This is where many men feel a strange relief. Less tension, fewer questions, more ease. But ease built on detachment is not safety, it's absence. When a woman reaches this point, she is no longer fighting for the relationship internally. She is transitioning out emotionally while remaining present physically. The danger is thinking you still have time because nothing seems wrong. In reality, this calm is not the storm passing. It's the weather after everything meaningful has already moved on. When she knows she's lost you, she begins to emotionally downgrade the bond without announcing it. This is where men feel something is off but can't name it. She still shows up, she still responds, but the priority is gone. You are no longer central. You are adjacent. One of the clearest signs is how she handles your absence. Before, distance created tension. Now it creates calm. She fills the space easily, not to make you jealous, not to prove independence, but because she's already adapted internally. When attachment weakens, absence stops hurting and starts feeling neutral. She also stops romanticizing you. Your flaws become clearer to her, not with resentment, but with clarity. Idealization fades when emotional safety disappears. She sees you as you are, not as who she hoped you'd be. This shift is dangerous because once idealization dies, it rarely returns in the same form. You might notice she no longer seeks emotional repair after tension. Small misunderstandings stay unresolved. Awkward moments linger, not because she's holding a grudge, but because repair requires belief that the bond is worth saving. When she senses it isn't, she lets the cracks exist. Her tone changes too. Less softness, less emotional warmth, still respectful, still calm, but flatter. Emotional warmth is a sign of attachment. When it fades, communication becomes functional. You exchange information, not energy. Another behavior is internal boundary setting. She decides, quietly, what she will and won't tolerate anymore. But instead of communicating those boundaries, she uses them to emotionally step back. This is not empowerment, it's resignation. She's no longer trying to shape the relationship. She's limiting her exposure to disappointment. She may also stop sharing her inner conflicts with you, not because she has none, but because you are no longer her emotional home. People share pain where they feel safe. When that safety erodes, disclosure disappears. And then there's the subtle shift in how she listens. She hears you, but she's no longer emotionally tracking you. She doesn't store details. She doesn't follow up. She doesn't mentally hold your world the way she once did. Emotional tracking is labor. When she's preparing to let go, she stops doing that work. This stage is deceptive because nothing dramatic happens. No arguments, no ultimatums, just a slow emotional demotion. Men often believe the relationship is stabilizing here. In truth, it's dissolving quietly. When a woman reaches this point, she is no longer hoping you'll come back emotionally. She's hoping to exit with dignity. And the most painful part for men is realizing later that the silence they felt wasn't peace. It was permission she gave herself to let go. When she knows she's lost you, something irreversible begins to form inside her. Emotional independence from you. Not empowerment in the social media sense, not dramatic strength, but a quiet psychological shift where your presence no longer regulates her emotions. This is the point of no return most men never recognize in time. She stops emotionally rehearsing conversations with you. Before, she would imagine what to say, how you'd react, how to explain herself. Now she doesn't bother. If something matters, she handles it internally or elsewhere. When someone stops mentally including you, they've already begun leaving. You'll notice she no longer reacts to your inconsistency. Delays, mixed signals, emotional distance, things that once unsettled her now pass through without friction. This isn't tolerance, it's detachment. Emotional investment amplifies inconsistency. Detachment neutralizes it. Another sign is how she handles disappointment. She doesn't express it, she adjusts expectations instead. This is a psychological self-protection mechanism. Rather than confronting pain, she lowers the emotional stakes. And once expectations drop far enough, attachment follows. Her empathy toward you also changes. She still understands you, but she no longer feels you. Your stress doesn't pull her in. Your struggles don't activate her nurturing instinct. Empathy without emotional pull is a sign the bond has thinned. You may sense she's more decisive in other areas of life. She makes plans easily, commits without hesitation. This isn't confidence blooming because of you. It's confidence forming without you. When emotional reliance dissolves, decisiveness increases. She also becomes less affected by your approval or disapproval. Compliments land lightly. Criticism doesn't sting. Emotional neutrality replaces emotional sensitivity. This is one of the strongest indicators that attachment is fading because attachment heightens emotional responsiveness. And then there's the honesty that feels almost indifferent. She tells the truth without emotional investment. No fear of how it will land. No effort to manage your feelings. This isn't cruelty, it's disconnection. Emotional connection motivates care in delivery. Detachment does not. At this stage, many men feel compelled to pull her back emotionally. They sense the loss and try to re-engage. But the mistake is timing. By the time this independence forms, her nervous system has already adapted to life without emotional reliance on you. She's no longer waiting for you to change. She's no longer hoping for clarity. She's already built stability elsewhere, internally. And once that stability exists, returning to emotional dependence feels unsafe. This is why sudden efforts often fail. You're trying to reconnect to a version of her that no longer exists. The woman who needed reassurance, who sought connection, who reacted emotionally, that version was tied to attachment. What you're facing now is not resistance, it's resolution. And resolution doesn't announce itself loudly. It shows up as calm, clarity, and a quiet readiness to move on. By the time she fully knows she's lost you, her behavior becomes deceptively gentle. This is the final stage, and it's the one men misunderstand the most. There's no anger here, no blame, no emotional chaos. What replaces it is something far more final, emotional closure without ceremony. She becomes kind in a way that feels distant, supportive but not invested, present but not anchored. This is not love reawakening. It's compassion after detachment. When a woman reaches this state, she is no longer protecting herself from pain. She has already processed it. You'll notice she no longer needs explanations. She doesn't ask why things happened or how you feel now. Answers have lost their power. Closure has already been built internally, and external confirmation is no longer necessary. Her memory of the relationship also stabilizes. She doesn't idealize it. She doesn't resent it. She sees it as complete. This emotional neutrality is one of the strongest signals that she has finished grieving. Grief doesn't always look like sadness. Sometimes it looks like peace. She may even encourage you in subtle ways, not romantically, not intimately, but humanly. This isn't manipulation or hope. It's the absence of emotional bargaining. When attachment dissolves, people stop trying to win or protect outcomes. Another sign is that she no longer imagines what could have been. Regret fades when acceptance settles in. The future she once pictured with you has been replaced by a different internal narrative, one where she survives, grows, and moves forward without needing you to validate it. She also becomes emotionally unavailable in a way that feels respectful. No mixed signals, no emotional pull, no lingering tension. This is not coldness, it's clarity. And clarity is often mistaken for indifference by those who arrive late to it. This is the moment men often try hardest to reconnect, because the resistance is gone. But the resistance was never the problem. It was attachment, and attachment has already been released. When a woman reaches this stage, she doesn't leave loudly, she leaves cleanly. Sometimes she stays physically present longer, but emotionally the door is closed. Not slammed, not locked, simply no longer hers to walk through. The lesson here is not regret, it's awareness. Loss rarely announces itself when it begins. It whispers while people feel safe. By the time it becomes visible, it's already resolved internally. If you understand these behaviours, not to control or manipulate, but to recognize emotional truth, you gain something far more valuable than strategy. You gain timing. And timing is what separates men who react too late from men who understand what's happening while there is still space to choose differently. That understanding is power, not over her, but over yourself.